Counter-Narrative News, bringing you daily news today on Thursday, the 6th of April, 2023. Hundreds of rockets have been fired from Lebanon into the settler colonial white supremacist state of Israel. This is all in the context of several things happening at the moment. For mostly the Israeli government going on its far-right project and course of provocation and violent further deepening colonization of Palestine, especially the occupied West Bank, but also a number of other factors here as well. The escalated airstrikes by Israel in Syria, generally reported against attacking the Iranian presence in Syria. So the rockets from Lebanon could be directly related to that, perhaps coming from the Lebanese Hezbollah group themselves, who are closely tied to Tehran and consider the supreme leader there their leadership, or it could be some factions close to the Lebanese Hezbollah group. But also another dynamic at play here, which is Iran and also other political interests in the region protesting against Azerbaijan's deepening strategic relations with Israel in the opening of its embassy in Tel Aviv, which also relates to the growing tensions between the Islamic Republic of Iran and Azerbaijan as well, which itself pertains to relations with the leading NATO state of Turkey, but Russia as well, and in relation to the Ukraine conflict. Quite complex things going on here, but in sum total, what we have is a ratcheting up of oppression against the Palestinian people, the containment of by military violent means of the Iranian presence in Syria, the development of normalization between the regional states and leading NATO countries with the settler colonial state in Israel, including the Chinese brokered Iran-Saudi deal, and also the machinations of the West in all of this in trying to pull the Moscow leadership into possibly another front in Azerbaijan in a possible flare-up with Iran, which would really diminish Russia's capacity and capability of trying to push its strategic objectives in Ukraine, for which this last year they have been retreating from strategically. So initially, Putin argued that it was at the same time a military operation to negate Lenin's contribution to the right of self-determination for the Ukrainian people, and also at the same time a denazification program, which is strange because Putin's leadership is full of neo-Nazis and far-right nationalists themselves. So Nazis engage in an operation to denazify is quite strange. And then Putin argued, well, actually, it's only to really accomplish establishing the colonized annexed territories of the so-called People's Republics of East Ukraine, and that's failed. And now Putin is basically arguing he wants some kind of buffer zone only. So the Russian military whole project there is being pushed further back and back and back. So let's see where that goes to. Going over to connected issues, that French President Macron is on a 3-day visit to Beijing to meet his counterpart Xi Jinping there. And Macron is very much encouraging a constructive engagement relative to what's been happening with the European Union and led by the United States in terms of ratcheting up and in a militarist confrontation between Western imperialism on the one hand in trying to deal with its rising global competitor, also pushing its capitalist interests as a capitalist state, that's China, in the global field. Indications are that also Macron is pushing Xi Jinping to talk directly to Zelensky in Kiev in Ukraine, and there's some noises that will happen shortly. Going over to Thailand, Thailand legalized marijuana sales and production last year, but is not seeing the economic benefits from that as a result due to massive imports of marijuana, particularly grown from the USA, which is favored by the colonial tourists who disembark into Thailand to engage in the systematic industrial sexual abuse of Thai people and young people, and also to despoil the country in this kind of racist colonial global tourist industry. Related to that as well, the Dutch authorities have conducted a media campaign dissuading and discouraging British young men to holiday in Amsterdam, as they conduct a lot of anti-social behaviour there. Of course, it's not just British young men, it's young men from all over Europe and further afield who go and indulge in the result of the mass trafficking of women and young women for industrial sexual abuse in Holland, as is the case globally. And finally, there is a growing drought problem in South Ethiopia, which is on top of the general drought situation and climate change situation of the people of East Africa. For example, in the neighboring state of Somalia, some 43,000 people died as a result of drought there. In a camp set up in South Ethiopia for refugees from the drought, is now resident to 53,000 people. Now, water retention and management is not the most difficult things to develop infrastructurally for a community, even if it's seeing relative drought and climate change. But these things are not being implemented. Instead, Ethiopia allowed itself to lead itself into a dirty ethnic war in the Tigray region, resulting in the rape and injury and torture and deaths of tens of thousands of people. Perhaps resources could have been better spent in investing in these communities. The main reason there's migration from the countryside to cities that create shanty towns in much of the so-called third world is a result of drought and climate change, which is itself a result of global capitalism historically and in recent history and in the present going forward, in its inability and its refusal by the very rationale of the capitalist super profit driven system as priority to not be concerned with these human issues. That's Counter Narrative News, wishing everyone a fantastic day. Please continue to support us by encouraging your friends and contacts to subscribing to our YouTube channel, and please consider following us on Twitter at @counter_CNN. Many thanks.